The warning lights turned red across every screen on the orbital station. Commander Park stood at the center of the command room, watching the data pour in. Her heart beat faster, but her face stayed calm. She had trained for this moment her whole life. "Commander, we have confirmation," said her chief tactical officer. His voice was steady, but she could see his hands shaking slightly. 10,000 ships. They are all Dominion warships. Nodded slowly, 10,000 ships. The number was almost impossible to believe. Earth had only 400 warships in total. The math was simple. The odds were hopeless. The Dominion was the oldest and most powerful empire in the known galaxy. They had conquered over 200 worlds in the past 1,000 years. No species had ever defeated them. No species had ever even tried to fight back. When they came, you surrendered. That was the rule everyone knew. "Open a channel to the surface," ordered. "Get me defense minister and ambassador. They need to see this." The large screen at the front of the room flickered and two faces appeared. Looked tired but alert. Looked worried. "We are seeing the same data you are," said. "This is not a diplomatic visit." "No," agreed. "This is an invasion fleet." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. They were considered a young species, not important enough to notice. But they had noticed them now. "Incoming transmission," announced. "They want to speak with us." "Put it through," said. The screen changed to show a commander. His skin was dark blue and his eyes were like black stones. His face showed no emotion at all. Behind him could see the bridge of his massive flagship. "I am Supreme Commander of the Dominion," the alien said. His voice was cold and flat. "You are the species called humans. You will listen carefully." Said nothing, she just watched. "The Dominion has decided that your world and your species now belong to us," continued. "You will surrender immediately. All humans will become property of the Dominion. You will serve us for the rest of your existence. This is not a request. This is your only option." He paused, waiting for fear, waiting for panic, waiting for the begging that always came when they made this speech. "If you refuse," said, "we will destroy your cities, kill half your population, and take the rest by force. You have 1 hour to respond." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one in the command room spoke. The weight of the threat hung in the air like smoke. 10,000 warships, enslavement or death, 1 hour. Then Commander Park did something that shocked everyone. She laughed. It started as a small sound, just a chuckle. Then it grew louder. She leaned back and laughed like she had just heard the funniest joke in the galaxy. Stared at her, "Commander." Wiped her eyes and shook her head. "I am sorry," she said, still smiling. "I know this is serious, but did you hear him? Did you hear what he said?" On the screen, Defense Minister was also smiling now. Ambassador looked confused, but there was something changing in her eyes too. "He thinks we will just give up," said. "He thinks we will surrender because the numbers are bad. He has no idea. He has absolutely no idea." She walked to the main console and pressed a button. Her voice would now broadcast to every ship in Earth's defense fleet, to every soldier on the ground, to every civilian watching the news. "This is Commander Park," she said. "You have all seen the enemy fleet. You know how many ships they have. You know what they want." She paused and let the words sink in. "They want us to be afraid. They want us to give up without a fight. They have conquered 200 worlds this way. No one has ever fought back." Her smile grew wider. "But they made a mistake. They did not study us. They do not know our history. They do not know what humans do when someone threatens our home." Around the galaxy, other species were watching this broadcast. They had expected crying. They had expected surrender. They had expected fear. Instead, they saw a human woman laughing at the most powerful military force in existence. "We have fought wars for 10,000 years," continued. We have fought each other over land, over ideas, over pride, over nothing at all. We have burned cities and rebuilt them. We have died by the millions and kept fighting. War is not something new to us. War is what we do." She looked directly into the camera. "They think they are bringing war to us, but they do not understand. They have only conquered species that chose to live in peace. They have never faced a species that was born in war. In homes across Earth, people stopped panicking. They started listening. Some of them started smiling too. I will not ask you to be brave," said. "Humans are already brave. I will not ask you to fight. Humans already want to fight. I will only ask you to remember who we are. We are the species that never gives up. We are the species that runs toward danger instead of away from it. We are the species that laughs in the face of death." She turned to send a response to the fleet. "What should I say?" he asked. Thought for a moment, then she smiled again. "Tell them we decline their offer. Tell them that if they want Earth, they will have to take it from us. And tell them to bring more ships because 10,000 will not be enough." Sent the message. Across the command room, officers began preparing for battle. There was fear in their eyes, but there was something else too. Something that looked almost like excitement. On the flagship, Supreme Commander received the human response. He read it twice, certain there was some translation error. No species had ever responded this way. No species had ever been so foolish. "They are insane," one of his officers whispered. Said nothing. For the first time in his long career, he felt something strange. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. It was doubt. In the orbital station, looked at her crew. These were the people who would fight beside her. These were the people who might die with her. She felt proud of every single one of them. "They have no idea what they just walked into," she said quietly. "And by the time they understand, it will be too late." The countdown had begun. In less than 1 hour, the largest battle in human history would start. The odds were impossible. The enemy was undefeated. And the humans could not stop smiling. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room ever built. It floated in space at the center of neutral territory, and representatives from over 300 species sat in its curved seats. Today, every seat was full. Every eye was watching the screens. They had all seen the fleet arrive at Earth. They had all heard the human response. Now they wanted to understand. Ambassador walked to the speaking platform at the center of the chamber. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had spent 30 years learning how to talk to aliens. This would be her most important speech. "Thank you all for gathering," she began. Her voice was soft but clear. "I know you have questions. I know many of you think we are crazy. I am here to explain." A representative from the species raised his hand. He was tall and thin with silver skin. "Ambassador, we have great respect for your people, but we do not understand. They have 10,000 ships. You have 400. Why are you not surrendering?" Smiled. It was the same smile that had shown on the broadcast. "Because surrendering is not who we are," she said. "Let me tell you about humans." She pressed a button and images appeared on the screens around the chamber. Images of Earth's history, images of war. "In the last 10,000 years, humans have fought over 15,000 wars," said. "We have killed each other by the hundreds of millions. We have invented weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We have used some of them." The chamber was silent. The alien representatives looked horrified. "Most species in this galaxy evolved in peace," continued. "They developed technology, built civilizations, and joined the galactic community without ever fighting a real war. That is normal. That is healthy." She paused. "Humans are not normal. We did not evolve in peace. We evolved in constant conflict. Every generation of humans has known war. Every human alive today has ancestors who survived battles, invasions, and disasters. We are the children of survivors. We are the descendants of fighters." On the screens, images changed. Soldiers charging into gunfire, cities burning and being rebuilt, people standing in rubble still holding weapons. They have conquered 200 worlds, said. They did this by showing up with overwhelming force and demanding surrender. It always worked. No species wanted to fight a battle they could not win. She looked around the chamber. But humans do not think that way. We do not calculate odds and give up when the numbers are bad. We have won battles we should have lost. We have survived disasters that should have killed us. We have a word for this. We call it stubbornness. An observer in the back of the chamber stood up. This is foolish talk. Your stubbornness will only lead to more death. You cannot defeat our fleet. Turn to face him. Maybe not, but we will hurt you. We will hurt you so badly that you will remember Earth forever. Every ship we destroy, every soldier we kill will be a price you pay. And here is something the Dominion does not understand. She stepped closer to the observer. We are willing to pay any price to stay free. Are you willing to pay any price to enslave us? The observer said nothing. He sat back down. On Earth, in the underground war room, Defense Minister was having a different conversation. Military officers from every country sat around the table. Generals, admirals, and strategists from nations that had once been enemies now worked together. Show them what we have, said. A holographic display appeared above the table. It showed Earth surrounded by thousands of tiny dots. For the past 30 years, we have been preparing for this exact situation, said General Lee. He was an older man with a face and tired eyes. He had spent his whole career studying alien threats. We knew that someday a hostile force would come. We knew they would have more ships than us, so we planned accordingly. He pointed to the dots around Earth. Hidden weapon platforms, over 6,000 of them. They are disguised as asteroids, satellites, and space debris. The enemy does not know they exist. Another officer spoke up. We also have ground-based weapons that can fire into orbit, missiles that can track and destroy ships from the surface. They will not just fight our fleet, they will fight our entire planet. Nodded. What about the ships themselves? Our ships are smaller and fewer, admitted. But they are built differently. Ships are designed for intimidation. They are big and impressive. Our ships are designed for one purpose only, killing. He changed the display to show the design of a human warship. Heavier armor, more weapons, faster engines, and our crews are trained for something they have never faced. What is that? Someone asked. Fighting to the death, said simply. Ships surrender when they take heavy damage. Their crews are not willing to die. Our crews are different. We will fight until our ships are molten metal. We will ram enemy vessels if we run out of ammunition. We will eject our crews and fly our ships directly into their flagships. The room was quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Many of the people in this room would die. Many of the soldiers they commanded would die. But no one suggested surrender. There is something else, said. Something they definitely do not expect. She brought up another display. This one showed volunteers, millions of them, civilians signing up to fight. When the broadcast their threat, they expected panic. They expected riots and chaos. Instead, recruitment centers across the world are overflowing. People are lining up to join the military. Old soldiers are coming out of retirement. Engineers are volunteering to work on weapons. Doctors are preparing for wounded soldiers. She looked at the faces around the table. They tried to scare us into surrender. Instead, they made us angry. They unified the entire human race in 1 hour. Every nation, every political party, every religion. We are all humans now. We are all fighting together. On the flagship, Supreme Commander was receiving reports that troubled him. Human communications were not encrypted. They wanted him to hear everything, and what he heard made no sense. They are not evacuating their cities, an officer reported. They are reinforcing them. Their civilian population is not rioting. They are volunteering for combat. Their media is not spreading fear, they are spreading jokes, they are making fun of us. Stared at the reports. In 200 conquests, he had never seen anything like this. Species always reacted the same way to threats: fear, panic, surrender. The humans were laughing at him. They were treating this like a game. Perhaps they truly are insane, his second officer suggested. Perhaps, said slowly, or perhaps they know something we do not. He shook his head. It did not matter. The Dominion had never lost a battle. The humans would learn the hard way that laughter would not stop plasma cannons. Begin the attack, he ordered. Show them what happens to species who refuse to submit. The fleet began to move toward Earth. 10,000 warships, carrying millions of soldiers, armed with weapons that had burned cities on hundreds of worlds. And on those warships, for the first time ever, some of the soldiers felt nervous, not because of the battle ahead, but because of the strange feeling that the humans knew something they did not. The hour was almost over. The battle was about to begin. The first shot came from the side. A bright beam of plasma crossed the darkness of space and struck a human satellite. The satellite exploded in a flash of orange light. That was the signal, said Admiral O from the bridge of his flagship, the Soul. He was a calm man who had spent 40 years in the Navy. He had never commanded anything larger than training exercises. Now he was leading humanity's entire fleet into the biggest battle in history. All ships, engage. 400 human warships moved forward to meet 10,000 vessels. From a distance, it looked like a group of fish attacking a whale. It looked impossible. It looked suicidal. Captain Shin Minyu sat in the command chair of the destroyer. His ship was at the front of the formation. He would be among the first to reach the enemy. He would probably be among the first to die. All weapons ready, reported Lieutenant from her station. She was young, only 25 years old. She had never been in real combat. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was steady. Missiles locked on target. Fire when in range, Minyu ordered. The fleet seemed to fill the entire sky. Their ships were huge, twice the size of human vessels. They were painted dark purple, the color of the Dominion. They moved with the confidence of an undefeated force. Then the human hidden weapons activated. All across Earth's orbit, what had looked like asteroids and debris suddenly came to life. 6,000 weapon platforms revealed themselves, their covers falling away to show cannons and missile tubes. They opened fire all at once. The formation had been tight and organized. Now it erupted in chaos. Ships that had been coasting forward were suddenly hit from every direction. Explosions blossomed across the enemy fleet like flowers made of fire. Direct hits on multiple targets, reported. Her voice was excited now. We caught them completely by surprise. On the Soul, Admiral watched the battle unfold. The hidden weapons had worked better than he hoped. In the first 5 minutes, over 200 ships were damaged or destroyed. But it was not enough. The enemy still had thousands more. All ships begin attack pattern Delta, he ordered. Focus fire on their command vessels. Make them feel every loss. The human fleet plunged into the formation. This was something no enemy had ever done before. Most species fought from a distance, trying to pick off ships without taking damage. The humans flew straight into the middle of the enemy, where the fighting would be hardest. Captain Minyu's ship was surrounded by enemies. 3 cruisers were targeting him from different angles. His ship shook as plasma beams hit the armor. Hull breach on Deck 7, an officer reported. Fires on Deck 4. Keep firing, Minyu ordered. Target the cruiser on our left. The cannons blazed. Human weapons were different from weapons. The Dominion used plasma beams that were clean and efficient. Humans used kinetic weapons that fired solid metal at incredible speeds. They used missiles filled with explosives. They used weapons that the galactic community had banned long ago because they were considered too brutal. The cruiser on the left took a direct hit from a missile. The explosion tore through its hull. Secondary explosions followed as the ship's power systems failed. Within seconds, the cruiser was a broken wreck. "One down," said, "two more on us." A plasma beam hit this bridge. The lights flickered. Alarms screamed. Minu felt blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. He did not stop to check it. "Return fire," he said. "All batteries." Across the battlefield, similar scenes were happening. Human ships were taking heavy damage. Some were destroyed completely. But for every human ship that fell, 2 or 3 ships fell with them. They had never lost this many ships in battle. They had never seen an enemy fight this hard. Their commanders started to panic. "They are not retreating," an officer reported too. "They are damaged, but they keep fighting. They are flying their crippled ships into our formations." Watched a human destroyer, its engines destroyed and its hull burning, drift into a group of ships and detonate its reactor. The explosion destroyed the human ship and 3 enemy vessels with it. "That was deliberate," said quietly. "They are using themselves as weapons." It was something they could not understand. Their soldiers valued their lives. They surrendered when victory was impossible. They did not throw themselves into death for no reason. But the humans saw a reason. Every ship they destroyed was one less ship that would threaten Earth. Every soldier they killed was one less soldier that would enslave human children. They were not fighting to win. They were fighting to hurt the enemy as badly as possible. On the surface of Earth's moon, another battle was beginning. Landing ships had tried to establish a foothold. They expected to find civilians hiding in fear. Instead, they found Sergeant and his soldiers waiting for them. Was a big man with a shaved head and cold eyes. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before joining the Space Defense Force. He had killed men in close combat. He had watched friends die beside him. This battle was different in location, but not in nature. "Let them land," he told his soldiers. "Let them think they have a safe zone, then we hit them." The troops poured out of their landing ships. They were tall and strong, their blue skin covered in armor. They carried weapons that could melt steel. They moved with the discipline of an army that had conquered 200 worlds. Smiled now. Human soldiers emerged from hidden positions all around the landing zone. They did not use the same tactics as They did not stand in formation and exchange fire. They attacked like wild animals, screaming and running toward the enemy. They were trained for organized combat. They were not trained for this chaos. Humans threw grenades and charged before the explosions finished. They shot enemies at point-blank range. They used knives and fists when their guns ran out of ammunition. One soldier found himself facing a human woman who was half his size. He aimed his weapon at her. She did not run. She did not hide. She smiled at him and pulled the pin on a grenade. They both died in the explosion. "They are insane," an officer screamed into his communicator. "They do not care if they die, they just want to take us with them." Within an hour, the moon landing force was wiped out. 3,000 soldiers dead. The humans had lost many too, but they had held the line. In space, the battle continued. The human fleet was shrinking, but so was the fleet. Admiral looked at the numbers. They had started with 400 ships. Now they had 250. The enemy had started with 10,000. Now they had 7,000. It was not enough. They were still losing, but they were making the pay a price they had never paid before. "All ships," broadcast. "Remember what we are fighting for. Remember your families on the surface. Remember that every enemy ship we destroy is one less threat to our home." He looked at the screen showing Earth. It was small and blue and beautiful. "We have a saying on our world," he continued. "You have awakened a sleeping giant. The thought they were attacking a weak species. They were wrong. They have attacked the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and now they will learn why. On the flagship watched his fleet shrinking. He had never lost this many ships. He had never seen such fierce resistance. For the first time in his career, he considered retreat. But retreat would mean admitting defeat, and the Dominion never admitted defeat. "Continue the attack," he ordered, his voice less confident than before. "We will break them eventually." But as he watched another group of his ships explode, he was no longer sure that was true. The humans were still fighting, the humans were still smiling, and the humans showed no signs of giving up. The battle paused. Both sides pulled back to repair damage and count their dead. It was not a ceasefire. It was just a moment to breathe before the killing continued. On the orbital station, Commander Park looked at the casualty reports. 150 ships destroyed, thousands of soldiers dead. The moon base had held, but at a terrible cost. And yet they were winning. Not winning in the traditional sense. The Still had 5,000 ships left. Earth had only 200, but the Dominion had never lost 3,000 ships in a single battle. They had never faced an enemy that refused to break. "Supreme Commander is requesting a communication," reported. Raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, put him through." Appeared on the screen. He looked different than before. The cold confidence was gone. In its place was something that looked almost like confusion. "I want to understand," said without any greeting. "Why do you keep fighting? Your defeat is certain. You have lost half your fleet. Your soldiers are dying by the thousands. Why do you not surrender and save what remains of your people?" Considered the question. It deserved an honest answer. "Let me ask you something first," she said. "In all your conquests, did you ever study the species you defeated?" "There was no need," replied. "They were weak, they surrendered." "That was your mistake," leaned forward. "You conquered species that evolved in peace, species that had never known war. When you showed up with your big fleet and your threats, they calculated the odds and made the logical choice." She smiled. "Humans do not make the logical choice. We make the stubborn choice, the defiant choice, the choice that says we would rather die free than live as slaves." On Earth, Dr. Han was having a similar conversation. She was a psychologist who had spent 20 years studying human behavior in extreme situations. Now, she was explaining human nature to a galaxy that could not understand it. "Think of it this way," she said to the cameras broadcasting across the galactic network. "Most species evolve to avoid danger. When they see a predator, they run. When they see overwhelming force, they submit. This is smart. This is survival." She pulled up images of humans throughout history. Soldiers charging into gunfire, protesters standing in front of tanks, firefighters running into burning buildings. Humans evolved differently. We learned that sometimes running away leads to worse outcomes. Sometimes standing and fighting, even when you cannot win, is the better choice. We learned that predators can be scared away. We learned that enemies can be hurt. She changed the image to show a human brain. Our psychology is built for last stands. When a human is cornered, when there is no escape, something changes in our brain. We do not become paralyzed with fear. We become more aggressive, more dangerous, more willing to take risks. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives from dozens of species watched in fascination. "But this is self-destructive," a representative said. "This leads to death." "Sometimes," agreed. "But it also leads to survival, because enemies learn to fear us. They learn that attacking humans comes with a price. They learn that even if they win, they will suffer." She looked directly at the camera. "They have won every battle they ever fought because no one fought back. Today, for the first time, someone is fighting back, and they are learning what that costs." On the battlefield, the pause was ending. Both fleets were preparing for the next round of combat, but something had changed in the formation. Their ships were not moving forward with confidence anymore. They were hanging back, spreading out, trying to minimize damage. Their commanders were scared. Admiral noticed this immediately. "They are afraid," he said to his officers. "Good, fear makes people make mistakes." He opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "Listen to me. The enemy is hesitating. They have never fought anyone like us. They do not know what we will do next, so let us show them." He gave an order that would have seemed insane at the start of the battle. "All ships advance, full attack speed, break their formation." 200 human ships accelerated toward 5,000 vessels. It looked like suicide. It was suicide for some of them. But as the human fleet plunged into the enemy formation again, the ships scattered. "They are retreating," reported from the ship was badly damaged now. Half the crew was dead, but the ship was still fighting. "They are not holding their formation." "Press the attack," Captain Menu ordered. Blood covered his uniform. His left arm was broken. He did not care. "Do not let them regroup." Across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear of the watched in disbelief. The unbeatable empire was being pushed back, not by a larger force, not by better technology, by pure, stubborn refusal to give up. On a distant world, a child asked his father, "Why are the humans still fighting? They are going to lose." The father did not know how to answer. He had been raised to believe that logic always won, that the smart choice was always the right choice. But watching the humans, he felt something strange in his chest. "Maybe winning is not the point," he finally said. "Maybe they are fighting because giving up feels worse than dying." The child did not understand. Neither did the father. But both of them felt something they had never felt before. A strange respect for the small species that refused to kneel. On the flagship was receiving reports of desertion. Some of his captains were pulling their ships out of the battle. They were claiming engine problems or weapon malfunctions, but everyone knew the truth. They were scared. "This is impossible," muttered. "We have conquered 200 worlds. We are the greatest military force in the galaxy. How can a species with 400 ships make us afraid?" His second officer approached carefully. "Supreme Commander, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. We have already lost 4,000 ships. If we continue, we might lose more." Turned on him with fury. "The Dominion does not retreat. The Dominion does not lose." "With respect, sir, we are losing right now." Stared at the battle display. His officer was right. They were losing, not the battle in total numbers. They could still destroy every human ship if they pressed forward, but the price was too high. The cost was more than any conquest had ever demanded. And beyond the battle, a worse problem was developing. The galaxy was watching. Species that had lived under threats for centuries were watching humans stand up and fight. They were watching the unbeatable empire bleed. If they retreated, they would look weak. If they pressed forward and lost more ships, they would look beatable. Either way, their reputation, the thing that had won them 200 worlds without real resistance, was being destroyed. Commander knew this. That was why she was still smiling. "They cannot win anymore," she said to her crew. "Even if they destroy us, they have lost. The galaxy has seen them bleed. The galaxy has seen them hesitate. They will never be as scary again." She looked at the display showing Earth behind them. "And that means Earth will never be alone again. Other species will help us rebuild. Other species will stand with us, because we showed them that standing up is possible." Looked at her with exhaustion in his eyes. "We are all going to die, are we not?" Nodded slowly. "Probably, but not for nothing, never for nothing." She opened a channel to the fleet. "Supreme Commander, this is your one chance. Withdraw your forces, leave our system, and we will let you go." There was a long pause. "You are offering me a chance to retreat?" asked, disbelief in his voice. "You have 200 ships, I have 5,000. You should be begging me for mercy." Laughed again, that same laugh that had started everything. "Maybe, but you have already lost 4,000 ships. How many more are you willing to lose? How much more can the Dominion afford to pay for one small planet? She leaned forward. Go home, Commander. Tell your masters that Earth was not worth the price. Tell them you faced a species that would rather die than surrender. And tell them that if they ever come back, we will be waiting. And we will be smiling. Cut the communication, but in his heart he knew she was right. The question was whether he could convince himself to admit it. Supreme Commander stood alone in his quarters, staring at the battle display. 5,000 ships remained. The humans had less than 200. By every logical measure, victory was still possible. But logic was not winning this battle. His officers were frightened. His soldiers were confused. And across the galaxy, species that had trembled at the mention of the name were now watching with new eyes. The spell was broken. The fear was fading. Final report, his second officer said, entering the room. We have lost 4,500 ships, 45% of our invasion force, the highest losses in Dominion history. Closed his eyes, and the humans. They have approximately 180 ships remaining, but they show no signs of surrender. Our intelligence suggests they are preparing a final assault. A final assault, opened his eyes. They have 180 ships against our 5,000. What kind of assault can they make? The officer hesitated. Sir, we have detected movement from Earth's surface. Thousands of small vessels are launching. Civilian ships, transport vessels, even personal spacecraft, all armed with whatever weapons they could attach. Stared at him. Civilians. They are sending civilians into a space battle. Yes, sir. They have also launched something else. Our sensors detected a network of missiles spreading across the solar system. They appear to be capable of faster-than-light travel. They could strike our fleet from any direction. The Supreme Commander sank into his chair. He had conquered 200 worlds. He had never seen anything like this. A species sending everything they had into one final battle, not to win, just to hurt him as badly as possible before they died. They are all willing to die, he said quietly, every single one of them. On the orbital station, Commander was giving her final orders. All civilian vessels form up behind the military fleet. You are our reserve. If you see an opening, take it. If you get a chance to hurt them, take it. Thousands of voices responded across the communication network. Farmers and teachers and doctors and students, all strapped into whatever ships they could find, all ready to fight for their world. Admiral brought his flagship alongside the orbital station. The Soul was battered and burned. Half its weapons were destroyed, but it was still flying. Commander, he said, the fleet is ready. What are your orders? Looked at the display. 180 military ships, thousands of civilian vessels, against 5,000 warships. It was the most uneven battle in history. We give them everything, she said. Every missile, every bullet, every ship. We make this the most expensive victory they have ever won, and we make sure the galaxy never forgets what happened here. She paused. And maybe, just maybe, we win. Stranger things have happened. The human fleet began its advance. It was not organized like a military formation. It was a wave of desperate courage. Ships of every size and shape flying together toward the enemy. On the flagship, alarms started blaring. Multiple contacts incoming, an officer reported. FTL missiles launching from across the solar system. They are targeting our fleet from every direction. Watched as the first missiles struck. They moved faster than anything his ships could track. They appeared out of nowhere, struck their targets, and destroyed ships before anyone could react. How many? He demanded. Thousands. They have thousands of these missiles hidden throughout their system. The fleet was being hit from all sides, from above and below, from behind and ahead. The missiles were small and hard to see, but each one carried enough explosive power to cripple a warship. And then the human fleet arrived. Captain Minu led the charge in his broken destroyer. The could barely fly. Its weapons were half destroyed. Its crew was half dead, but it was still fighting. "Target the flagship," Minu ordered. "Everything we have, pour it into them." The destroyer's remaining weapons fired. Other human ships joined the assault. They focused all their firepower on ship. The flagship shuddered under the impact. Its shields failed. Its armor cracked. For the first time in the battle, felt real fear. "Return fire," he shouted. "Destroy them all." But his fleet was falling apart. Ships were retreating without orders. Officers were refusing to advance. The missiles kept coming. The humans kept coming. And no matter how many they destroyed, more appeared. Then something unexpected happened. From across the galaxy, new signals appeared. Ships jumping into the system. Not ships, ships from other species. And dozens of others. Species that had lived in fear of the Dominion for centuries. "What is this?" demanded. His communications officer looked stunned. "They are here to help the humans, sir. They are declaring themselves allies of Earth." Ambassador's voice came over all channels. "Supreme Commander, you are now facing a coalition of 47 species. We demand your immediate withdrawal from this system." The new ships were not many, a few hundred at most, but their arrival changed everything. The galaxy had chosen a side. The galaxy had decided that humans were worth defending. Looked at the battle display. His fleet was surrounded. His ships were being destroyed. His officers were talking openly about retreat. And on his screens he could see the human commander, Park, still smiling, still laughing. "This is over," his second officer said. "We must retreat. If we stay, we lose everything." Wanted to argue, he wanted to fight to the last ship, but he was not human. He was, and the knew when a battle was lost. "All ships," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Prepare for retreat. We are leaving this system." The communication was heard across both fleets. For a moment, no one moved. Then the ships began to turn. They began to withdraw. On the orbital station, Commander watched them go. She did not cheer. She did not celebrate. She just watched in silence as the greatest military force in the galaxy fled from her broken, battered fleet. "They are retreating," said his voice full of disbelief. "They are actually retreating." "Yes," said quietly, "they are." She thought about all the people who had died, all the ships that had been destroyed, all the families that would never see their loved ones again. It was not a clean victory. It was not a happy victory, but it was a victory. "Open a channel to all forces," she said. Her voice broadcast across every ship, every station, every screen on Earth. "They are withdrawing. We have won. Not because we were stronger, not because we were smarter, but because we refused to give up. Because we showed the galaxy what humans do when someone threatens our home." She paused, feeling the weight of the moment. "Remember this day. Remember what we sacrificed. And remember that we are never alone. Today, species from across the galaxy came to stand with us. They came because they saw something in us that they wanted to believe in. They saw hope." Across Earth, people began to cry. They cried for the dead. They cried for the wounded. And they cried with relief that it was finally over. In space, the last ships jumped away. The fleet that had seemed unstoppable was gone. The battle was over. Admiral brought his ship alongside a captured vessel, had been taken prisoner during the final chaos. He was brought to station in chains. The Supreme Commander looked smaller now, defeated, confused. "I do not understand," he said when he stood before. "You should have surrendered. Any rational species would have surrendered. Why did you laugh?" Looked at him for a long moment, then she answered. "You threatened us with death, but we have always lived with death. Every human knows that life is short and fragile. We do not fear death the way you do. We fear living without dignity. We fear giving up on each other." She stepped closer. "You thought your threats would break us, but threats do not break humans. They make us angry. They make us stubborn. They make us willing to die just to prove a point. She smiled one last time. You asked why we laughed. We laughed because you did not know what you were walking into. We laughed because we knew this was going to be fun. Stared at her. He would never understand humans. No one in the galaxy would ever fully understand humans. But everyone would remember what happened at Earth. Everyone would remember the species that faced impossible odds and just laughed. And no one would ever threaten humanity again.